Good afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's session, Powering Asia's Future, Energy Resilience and Transition under AZEC. My name is Tadashi Kiyama, Senior Energy Specialist at ADB, and I'll be your MC for this session. This session is co-hosted by ADB and Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, or METI. Today, our discussions will center on the critical balance between enhancing energy security and accelerating the energy transition across the region. In the first half of the program, we will explore potential cooperation between Asia and the Pacific and the Middle East to strengthen regional energy resilience, including key collaborations under the Power Asia framework. In the second half, we will turn to a focus on transition finance, discussing practical mechanisms to mobilize capital and support Asia's decarbonization pathways. To set the stage, it is my honor to invite Mr. Shinichi Kihara, Director General for Energy and Environmental Policy at METI, Japan, to deliver the opening remarks and a keynote presentation on Japan's initiatives for energy resilience in Asia. Mr. Kihara, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shinichi Kihara from Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. I'm very honored to participate in the ADB's Asian Clean Energy Forum event in such an important timing. Today, the Asian region, including Japan, is facing an unprecedented energy challenge due to the significant oil-gas disruption from the Strait of Hormuz. As a keynote, I'm happy to provide Japan's perspective, starting from our own response measures, and then introduce Japan's new support package called Power Asia, launched by the Prime Minister Takaichi to support Asian region to build resilient energy system. So, impact of the closure of Strait Hormuz on the AZEC partner countries. The Asia is the most severely impacted region by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. A number of Asian countries are highly dependent on the oil imported from the Hormuz, while their stockpile are not sufficient to endure long-term closure of the strait. In Japan, luckily had large cushion of public and private oil stockpile equivalent to 248 days when the crisis happened. This is a strong asset we have built over 50 years after the oil shock in 1970s. In response to the closure of the Hormuz, Japan announced the release of its oil stockpile equivalent to 45 days in March, ahead of the IEA's announcement of coordinated stockpile release of 400 million barrels, which is an unprecedented amount. And Japan also released additional 20 days equivalent of stockpile in April. Japan, as the only Asian country in the G7, has actively spoken out in the G7 and IEA in favor of coordinated IEA stockpile release. The joint action with unprecedented large volume pushed down the oil price by $20 and contributed to ease Asian and global oil markets. In addition to releasing our own oil stockpile to prevent the market from becoming overly tight, Japan decided not to impose export restriction of our oil products. Japan continued our efforts to maintain open and stable supply chains to support energy security in Asia. On top of that, on top of the stock release, Japan is making every effort to maximize oil procurement through bypass routes in the Middle East and from alternative suppliers. Oil imports from Saudi and also the Gulf countries is expanding, finding another bypass route, thanks to all the efforts by also the producing countries. And also the oil import from the US has increased 800%. In total, we now recovered 80% of oil supply that was disrupted. And so far, we are able to manage the immediate supply disruption by using stock release and alternative supply chain. However, the challenge continues. This chart shows the trend of oil inventories over the past 6 years. In 2021, global oil inventory started at high level after the COVID-19, but gradually declined throughout the year as the economic activities returned. And following the relatively stable inventory level between 2022 and 2024, last year in 2025, significant oversupply pushed up the inventory again to a very high level. And entering 2026, with the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz causing approximately 20 to 30% of global crude oil shipments to become unavailable, oil is being supplied by drawing down inventories, leading to a sharp decline in stock levels. If this situation continues, inventory levels are expected to fall below the stable period of 2022-2024 within the next few months, which could result in a further sharp increase in oil prices. So, as Dr. Fatih Birol of IEA mentioned, the red zone is approaching. So, we have to react on this. So, this is a Japan story, but we also care what happens in Asia. Japan and Asia are closely connected through regional supply chains. So, it is strong interest for Japan to work together with Asia and address the regional energy challenges. Japan has launched a new initiative called Partnership on Wide Energy and Resource Resilience, or we call it Power Asia, Power R Asia. This initiative was launched at the online AZEC Plus Summit chaired by Prime Minister Takaichi with a partnership of 15 leaders and ministers from ASEAN countries and others. The Power R Asia framework is a support package of total $10 billion to help Asian region build more resilient energy system. Power R Asia consists of two main pillars. First is short-term measures to support emergency response, and second is medium to long-term measures to support building resilient energy infrastructure and systems. And Japan will provide necessary finance, technology, and human capacity. To look into more detail in terms of specific support for the emergency response phase, we will provide financial support through JBIC and NEXI and others to facilitate the procurement of oil and products to meet urgent demand, as well as companies to maintain production. And through JICA, we will also provide financial support to the government to help manage material shortages and price increases. And we will collaborate with ADB and the IEA, leveraging their financial and analytical capabilities. For the structural, medium to long-term structural support, this is a right-hand pillar, we plan to strengthen the energy supply systems, including through building a stockpiling system. We will support diversification of energy sources, such as biofuels and nuclear technology, and we can make industry more resilient through enhancing energy conservation efforts. Strengthening ASEAN's energy security in both short-term and mid to long-term perspectives will lead to more stable and resilient energy system across the region. So, building on the lessons learned, Asian countries need to review our energy policies and strategies reflecting the impact of the Hormuz disruption. Japan is ready to support such efforts through the Power R Asia initiative. And I look forward to the discussion in this session. What are the challenges and lessons learned? How we can address the challenges and how we can collaborate to build more resilient energy supply chain in Asia. During the 1970s oil shock, the Middle Eastern oil disruption hit OECD countries. And during the Russia invasion to Ukraine, the Russian oil gas disruption hit Europe. This time, disruption of oil gas from the Gulf countries hit Asia, but history proves that we can overcome the challenge by rebuilding resilient, efficient, diversified energy system. And Asia will recover. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kihara, for the insightful framing remarks. We now move to our first panel discussion. To lead this conversation, I'm pleased to hand over the floor to our moderator, Mr. Raphael Abasov, Principal Energy Specialist, ADB. We would now like to request the panelists to take their seats on stage. Raphael, over to you.
Dear colleagues, dear panelists, it's a pleasure to see you in Manila in this great event, Asia Clean Energy Forum. Today we are in a very special panel, and the specialty of this panel is about emergency we are all observing in terms of the energy markets. This panel has a very important subject to be discussed. This is about energy resiliency and transition. And it's a really great opportunity for us to hear from you in terms of the ongoing situation in energy markets and challenges, risks, and opportunities for us working together in addressing these risks and managing these risks more sustainably. I would like to ask my first question to our esteemed panelists, and my first question would be about the implications of current energy supply shock and how we expect to address these shocks. And let me start this question to our dear guest, Deputy Minister of Energy of Saudi Arabia, Mr. Majid. Over to you.
Thank you, Raphael. First, I would like to start by saying it's a pleasure to be here at the Asian Forum for the first time, and hopefully it will not be the last, as such events brings us a lot closer together in addressing challenges and key needs of the region. Asia constitutes more than 80% of the supply demand from Saudi Arabia, and it's a very important part of the world to us. But before getting into what are the lessons or the measures taken, I would just like to put some perspective on the issue. This is probably the biggest energy crisis that the world has seen for more than 100 days now, and it's unpredictable. No one knows when it's going to end. And just prior to the event, just to put things in perspective, more than 30% of seaborne crude was passing through the strait. Nearly 20% of LNG supplies were also passing through the strait. In terms of refined products, petrochemicals, and fertilizers, we're talking about more than a quarter of seaborne supplies. So this has impacted almost every aspect of the industry. It has impacted the economy at the world scale. It has impacted steel, aluminum, building material. It has impacted downstream petrochemical supply industries. It has impacted food supply chains, as fertilizers that were supposed to be passing through the strait came to a halt. We have seen prices skyrocketing, gasoline and diesel and jet in particular, so more than 100% increase, gasoline more than 70%, So the impact is enormous. This is even a lot bigger than what we saw during COVID-19. If there is anything that we have learned, is that reliability is not only about being able to produce, is not only about being able to produce and sell at your own terminals, but rather being able to deliver to the doorsteps of your customers. And that's why collaboration with Japan, Korea, and other countries in the region came into play and was very important during this crisis. We intend to do more of this with the Asian countries. In terms of what we do on Saudi, we have utilized this period to enhance our resilience to produce our MSC of 12.3. We have responded immediately to the crisis by pushing 7 million barrels through the East-West pipeline, which came as a lifesaver for the world in terms of supply. That also helped provide crude to our Western region refineries. Saudi continued to export refined products during this time, where other countries stopped that. So these are things that we have responded with from the kingdom, and we intend to do more of this with the region, as well as with countries around the Gulf region in the days to come as well.
Thank you very much. I think your summary is really great and inspiring. The way how you see this, and some of the messages are quite powerful, I guess, for the audience and for all of us. This is indeed the longest, as you way how you introduced, it's the longest crisis in a way, right? And the other characteristics you put, and it's very interesting, the uncertainty is a definition of this crisis. So nobody knows what would be happening on the supply chain. It's very important, your acknowledgement of fact that the current crisis is not a standalone in a silo. It does affect entire economy. It goes beyond what is conventional being absorbed, but it goes to the oil products in economy and households level. So it goes all cascaded on. And many thanks for highlighting this important connection between producer and consumers, that the crisis is not only on the crisis of production or supply, but it's an entire chain. And this is a very important, and you acknowledge the role of greater collaboration with countries like Japan. So I would like to ask our colleague, Kihara-san, the response on the Japan side, and we've been told today about the programs put together, collaboration from which Japan established from consumers' perspective, and it would be great to learn more about this response and how you see this collaboration addressing the risk or disruption caused by this uncertainty.
Yes, so we announced this Power Asia initiative by the Prime Minister, and it's not only a declaration. We are working on concrete projects. So, for example, in Vietnam, there's a Nison refinery, which is a major supplier in the Vietnam, and they have been facing difficulties in securing crude oils from procurement from the producer countries after the event. So in response, Japan and Vietnam have aligned on supporting the refineries' crude procurement through provision of trade insurance by NEXI, Japan's export insurance institution, the government institution. And another example is the Philippines, this country. The Department of Energy and also the national oil company, the PNOC, had advanced concrete steps towards establishing national strategic petroleum reserve system. In addition, under the President Marcos, he visited Japan 2 weeks ago, and he is the ASEAN chair, and Philippines also proposing the regional joint stockpiling within ASEAN. So oil stockpiling is a very hot topic in the Philippines. So Japan has committed that we will take the lead in collaboration with public financial institutions like JBIC, the JICA, and JOGMEC, as well as all the private sector partners, including engineering companies. And we will support the Philippines to build the national oil stockpile facility. And also, Japan and the ASEAN region are closely interconnected through supply chains. So ensuring stable energy supply in ASEAN through these initiatives will support region's economic activity. You mentioned about the cascade effect throughout the economy. So this is very important. And furthermore, I mentioned about the Asian region, but also the producer countries are also very serious today. So oil-producing countries in the Gulf are also showing strong interest to expand the crude oil stockpiling in Asia. And Japan is ready to bridge the producing countries and the consuming countries in Middle East and Asia. We are keen to jointly develop a resilient energy system together to assure secure and sustainable energy future of the Asian region and also the world.
Thank you very much, sir. I guess this summary, your summary is very amazing, because what you're basically implying to audience is the collaboration and the joint efforts. And I guess you refer to ASEAN as an excellent regional platform which can connect all these consumers into addressing this common issue together. And this is one important message. And I think your example with Vietnam is very, very powerful, because what you are trying to tell us, I think, is that joint planning, both as state companies and also private sector, is very important, because you really want to address uncertainty by proper planning. This is really great because, as Deputy Minister Majid mentioned, 80% of the market is in Asia, and this planning is crucial for both sides. With that, I would like to ask our next panelist, Dr. Virawat, who is leading the research on the ASEAN market and ASEAN issues related to the energy. And what is your take in terms of this demand and supply, disruption risks, and a potential way to address these risks going forward in context of the these emerging concerns of the energy supply?
Thank you. That is a good question. Excellency, if you allow, I'd like to use one of my 2 slides that I just made just now, so you can see the whole picture. Thank you. So thank you very much indeed, Mr. Moderator and Excellencies, Majid. Thank you very much. I think, and Director DG Kihara mentioned this morning that this, at the beginning of this meeting, is that everything comes from the crisis. So with that, I think, the question come at the right time, the 2 questions that you made, because the recent energy shock, especially from Middle East situation, remind us of one important lesson, That means energy transition cannot be separate from energy resilience. And decarbonization must go together with security, with affordability and preparedness. So that is why I see, when I heard DG Kihara-san mentioned just now on the Power Asia and AZEC 2.0, as you know already, been launched at the leader meeting last month. It's really timely initiative from Japan, and it kind of sending the clear message that our Asia should not only respond to shock Asia must turn shocks into strategy. That's why this is the issue. So I think the Middle East tension are kind of wake-up call, if I'm not mistaken, to move from emergency reaction to structural preparedness. So from area, you asked me about that. So from area perspective, our think tank organization sit in Jakarta. I would like to share 2 points. First, what the current shock mean for Asia, and sometime we can talk about how we can work together, from now. So if you see the implication of the current energy supply shock, I think the answer very simple. The current energy shock tells us that Asia is still highly exposed. So many countries in our region still depend heavily on imported oil, right? Imported gas, LNG, petroleum product. So when there is a conflict in the Middle East, disruption in shipping route or volatility in price, the impact is immediate. Everybody knows. So it affects fuel price currently. It affects electricity cost, inflation, industrial competitiveness, and household welfare. You just mentioned about that. So I think the first implication is like energy security is back, but in a new form, I think, in my opinion. So in the past, we often look at energy security mainly as supply contract. But today, contracts alone are not enough. We need to look at the whole system, I think. What are they? Storage, logistic, port, refinery, shipping route, emergency plan, very important. Finance, you're going to hear in the next session, and demand side response. So in other words, we must move from, to my opinion, from just-in-time energy system to the resilient by design energy system rather. So this is exactly where Power Asia can be useful somehow. It can help countries not only respond to crisis, I think, but also build long-term resilience through stockpiling. We're going to work on that right now. Energy diversification, infrastructure, finance, and supply chain cooperation. So for ASEAN, I would suggest 3 quick directions or 3 points. First, moving from emergency reaction to preparedness. I mean, every nation, every country, all countries should review that its national energy emergency readiness is very important. So not only policy document, but real operational readiness. I mean, like, can we identify critical fields? Can we monitor stock level? Can we respond quickly to price spike? And can we protect vulnerable consumer or key industry? So the key point here is preparedness must be tested before the crisis, not during the crisis. Second point is using stockpiling as a practical resilient tool, not only as a concept. Because in ASEAN, you heard about APSA, you heard about CERM, it's on the paper. It's not really yet in action until crisis. People wrap it up again. And you can see ASEAN, we announced APSA into action soon in ASEAN. So on oil and petroleum products stockpile, I think we need to be very practical. I do not suggest that every ASEAN country must immediately build a full strategic petroleum reserve like advanced economy. We cannot do it. That may not be realistic. But ASEAN can start with a phased and flexible approach to start with. For example, mapping existing storage tank, identify unused or underutilized capacity, improve commercial stock obligation, and exploring public-private storage model. That's what we are working with Philippines today. So that is where area current work is relevant. And following the question, not the question, the request, I would say, from the Filipino president as ASEAN chair this year. So IREA is now looking at how ASEAN can move from broad discussion into practical design. So not to replace APSA or CERM, but to supplement them with implementable tools. In simple words, I think APSA and CERM provide regional cooperation concept. What we now need is operational layer, like where, how much, who finance, who manage and how release decision can work. This is very important. That is missing bridge between policy and action. Last but not least, diversify energy source, root and field, and also protect energy transition from energy shock. So I think the transition itself must be protected. If energy transition is seen, as making energy more expensive or less secure, public support will weaken. So we must design the transition in a way that is secure, affordable, and realistic. So that means accelerating renewable, but also investing in grid, investing in storage, energy flexibility, biofuel, energy efficiency, regional interconnection is very important. So the key message of this question, if I'm not mistaken, in overall, the current shock should not be treated only as a temporary crisis. It should become a policy trigger. And the trigger to build stronger system, to build better storage, diversify supply, and more resilient regional cooperation. So I think I'd like to conclude this question from you is that emergency response is necessary, but structural preparedness is more important. This is my answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is a great presentation, and these are the two most very powerful slides. You basically summarized both the problem and the approach you can envisage for the ASEAN. Well, I guess my take is from what you described very professionally is a regional cooperation becomes a new way to address the shock, and regional cooperation is being determined as considered not to address the shock, but explore this as opportunity. And I think the words opportunity you mentioned is very important policy signal for ASEAN. And your examples of Philippines, I think this is a very vivid examples what we all observed here. I would like to take that point and your recommendation and back to our Honorable Deputy Minister. And Mr. Majid, what do you think of the cooperation with the consumers and with ASEAN and Asian partners? How do you see the next level cooperation triggered by this crisis? How this crisis can put this and your relationship into the new format, new quality format, and how do you see the ecosystem which been introduced, where the supply is no longer contract, but supply is a contract, shipment, it's a supply chain as a whole, plus financiers. How do you see this ecosystem should be modified to acknowledge the risks going forward? Thank you.
I think that's a very important question, and I'd like to really thank you for those informative slides. And I believe it should be addressed at both fronts. It should be addressed at the supplier side, and I will address that, and it should be also addressed at the customer side as well. I think if we really want to take this crisis and put it in perspective, I believe there is a necessity more than just opportunities to catch here. There are necessities to secure supply for this region, and I believe the best way to do that is through the model that we have implemented for years now with Japan, which is to have your own strategic petroleum reserves. In 2025, the Kingdom provided more than 40% of crude supply to the Philippines, and we intend to continue that partnership. But it needs to happen, I believe, in a different way. Rather than direct supplies, it should be based on strategic petroleum reserves established here in the Philippines in order to be able to effectively respond to crises like these, to have ample survival days for the Philippines, so the country doesn't get impacted immediately, or or people from the Philippines get impacted immediately by such crises. And we are here today to discuss this with our partners in the Philippines by capitalizing more on the Power Asia initiative. We are willing to do that, and in fact, there are some discussions ongoing with other countries in the ASEAN And we intend to expand on that model and replicate it more in different countries other than Japan. From the supplier side, we learned the hard way that your supply going in one direction is just not reliable, is not resilient enough. No one ever thought Strait of Hormuz would be closed, let alone closed for more than 100 days. And so now that is the reality. That happened. What we are currently doing is working with the GCC countries. There is currently a committee looking at establishing a resilient energy supply system away from the Strait of Hormuz. We're looking at expanding pipelines going east to west to our Red Sea port in Yanbu, so it can take more, so it can help also countries in the GCC deliver their energy supplies to different locations. We're also looking at different routes from the east-west, and we are also engaging our partners who can benefit from those supplies to be with us from the onset, either through extending their expertise, EPC, or even as coming as equity or investment partners. This is, we believe, is a necessity. It's not just an opportunity that we need to jump on, and we intend to take part. The model is very simple. The country hosting the strategic petroleum reserve is relieved from any working capital. The kingdom would provide the volumes of the crude at no cost to that country, and there is a model already working with our colleagues in Japan. All payments are only made when withdrawal happen, and that provide that redundancy and resilience to any country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that is a really good way to ask about the Japan role in leading a coordination and solutions for the region, ASEAN and beyond. Can I ask you this question? DG Kihara, I think we all heard about the Power Asia, and I think this is a very powerful platform created in response. Could you share your expectations in terms of the future cooperation pathway, both in the region with the countries, consumer countries, and with the suppliers? How do you see the going forward approach in strengthening this partnership? And how do you see the role of Japan in fostering this cooperation, building the bridge between supply and consumption, and how and what type of risk mitigation instruments you might be exploring going forward, as has been presented? Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much. This is a great question. Yes, and as I mentioned in my presentation, Japan will take the role as the bridging role between the ASEAN, the Asian region, and the Middle East producers. And talking about reaching out to the producer countries, our Minister Akazawa traveled to Saudi Arabia in early May and had a very high-level discussion with the Saudi leadership. And of course, Japan is expecting the immediate supply recovery from Saudi, daily basis delivery to fill up the gap. And that is already happening. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is a very credible country trying the best to provide crude oil to Japan through using the bypass route. And the VLCC tankers are arriving in Japan now. On top of that, in addition to the daily supply, yes, we discussed about a possible reach out to the Asian region, how we can jointly come up with solution to develop more resilient stockpile system in the Asian region, not only by the consumer country, but also with the help from Saudi Arabia. So that's why immediately after the minister level meeting with Deputy Minister Al-Utaibi, immediately we had an online discussion and all that. So we're developing this, and it's already happening in the Philippines. How we can support the Philippines national stockpiling system, but we can expand this to more countries. We already hear from Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore about the strong national interest to build national stockpiling. So we will work hard, and this will be a joint effort between the producer and consumer country, how to develop a resilient supply chain from the upstream to downstream. And it's not anymore producer versus consumer, it's a producer and consumer to build resilient energy supply chain. So the Power R initiative is a very strong initiative, but Japan is fully committed to use this strong tool, and also finance will be an important part of it. So we are sitting with the ADB, how we can collaborate to work on the finance side as well. So, so this is a challenge, but again, this is a challenge that we will overcome and become even stronger. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DG. I guess your acknowledgement of the ongoing dialogue with major suppliers like Saudi Arabia is a very powerful message of ongoing and further modernization of the storage capabilities, collaboration with neighbors, expanding the program beyond the Philippines and others. These are very powerful messages. Thank you for sharing this. I would like now to ask, perhaps there's going to be the last question, and we will ask audience for follow-up questions, if any. Dr. Virawat, your institution is very committed on the policy analysis and recommendation to ASEAN, and I think your platform is very much important in so-called evidence-based decision-making, and the practicality of the analysis and recommendations are absolutely a necessity in a given uncertainty, which we are all living in, right? Can I ask you one question? What are your policy study priorities you would be setting up going forward, given that enhanced collaboration between supplier and consumers, given modernization of ecosystem, if you wish? What would be your policy priorities in terms of analysis, recommendations, and the dialogue within ASEAN? Thank you.
I have 5 more minutes. I think I have one more slide, maybe allow me to use that slide.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Make it quick. Yes. Okay. For area work, and then to foster international cooperation is very important in the East Asia. Actually, we have 10+6 now. We have 10+8, including US and Russia. So I mean, quite big now. So I think your question is really good. Also, I think my view is that to work internationally or international cooperation, I think it must become more practical, more and more. No, not theory. So we already have, dialogue. We have declaration every year, many. We have regional framework. They are useful, of course. But the real question, I think, is when the next crisis comes, what can we actually do together? That is more important. So for me, cooperation should move into at least 3 steps. From dialogue to design, from design to pilot, and from pilot to regional mechanism. That's going to be action. So let us suggest maybe 3 or 4 points very quickly and the raw area to answer your question. First, to build regional energy emergency information platform, that is the critical thing we have to do now. So ASEAN as partner of many countries in the world. But partner like Japan, we just hear from Director General just now, other member countries, our partner like ADB, IREA itself, and ACE, ASEAN Center for Energy, can support a practical energy emergency information platform together, all together. So this does not need to be, legally binding at the beginning, because no one like this. It can start simply sharing information first, sharing information on supply risk, on stock level, on shipping constraint, storage capacity, price movement, alternative supply option. So during the crisis, I think information is power, is really power. Without trusted information, countries act alone. But with trusted information, countries can coordinate. So the first step is share information, share understanding, and share readiness. Second point, develop pilot stockpiling cooperation. I mentioned this again. This is a current issue that we are working. ASEAN should consider, in my opinion, pilot stockpiling cooperation first. The Philippines request is timely because it can become a practical starting point during your chairmanship of ASEAN. But we must be careful. Stockpiling is sensitive. Every country wants security, right? But not every country wants the burden of hosting storage. Not in my backyard, something like that. But anyway, so the solution must be win-win. In fact, I think the host country should gain investment, storage fee, logistic upgrading, strategic value. Participating countries should gain access to emergency supply, right? And partners such like Japan, ADB, even ACE, even IREA itself, can help with technical design, with finance structure and governance. It's important. So this is not about creating a big regional reserve overnight, because it's about, I think, starting with the pilot model first that is credible, bankable, and most important, politically acceptable, right? You might see in the near future that perhaps Saudi Arabia may construct something in Thailand, in the south. I don't know. Let's see what happens, because in Thailand, in the south, we're gonna build what we call land bridge to link Andaman to Gulf of Thailand, from Andaman Sea, Indian Ocean, Gulf of Thailand, and then go to the South China Sea. So this is another route compared to Malacca Stretch. But this is the thing that's still on the paper. That is a problem. The question that just raised is going to happen because of crisis. So my simple thing here is that we should start small, design well, and scale later. That is the key. The third one is connect resilience with transition finance. I think I don't want to touch this because the next session, our colleague will go for the finance, right? I think we at least we must connect, the energy resilience with the transition finance, some project may not look fully green today, but they can essentially, for transition and resilience in the future. So fuel storage, refinery efficiency, gas infrastructure with future hydrogen readiness, for example, or grid interconnection, battery, storage, whatever, this kind of things is very important. So the project, I think, can reduce risk and support decarbonization over time. So we need to finance language, that recognize them very easily. For example, I can conclude in this point that transition enabling, resilient enhancing, regionally important. This is where AZEC 2.0 can provide very important bridge between security today and decarbonization tomorrow, as the DG just mentioned. Last point, using IREA to answer your question as a neutral technical platform. IREA can support region as a neutral technical platform, of course. We can help ASEAN and partner with policy analysis, stockpiling scenario, regulatory review, financing option, and practical roadmap design. So our role is not to impose only one model, Our role is to help countries identify what works in their own context, while building a regional architecture for them that is more resilient. This is fully consistent with AZEC principle. Our principle of AZEC is one goal, various pathway. My last point is that first, energy resilience must become the foundation of energy transition. Second, I think Power Asia and AZEC 2.0 we hear from the Director General today can turn today's energy shock into tomorrow's strategy. And ASEAN should use the current momentum, including the Philippine request on stockpiling, to move from concept to pilot implementation in the near term. So we do not need to wait for perfect system, I think. We can begin with practical steps. Information sharing first, storage mapping, pilot stockpiling, transition finance, and regional coordination. So my message here, I think, is simple. Asia should not only prepare for the next shock. Asia should design the next level of resilience rather. So Elias stand ready to support ASEAN. Japan, other member countries, support ADB and all partner, Saudi Arabia, our friend countries in this important effort. I think I will stop here and then the time is up. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Virawat. This is a great, unfortunately, we're running out of the time, but maybe with permission of my colleague, I would just do very short 1-minute wrap, because I believe there have been 3 key messages shared today. And I tried to put them together because for everyone's benefit, what we have today, we are living in a new world, and this new world called uncertainty. We are living the longest crisis ever, and that crisis undermines a lot in terms of the economic growth and resiliency and sustainability. That pose a lot of energy security concerns and national security to many, many nations in Asia Pacific. Second is the leadership by Japan and the government of Japan putting together the enhanced cooperation platform, put efforts together to make systemic and more pragmatic approach in undertaking and understanding the demand and how plan the demand. And the importance of these efforts, it goes hand in hand with a very deep dive research and the policy recommendations vis-a-vis not only the storage, but we're talking about new ecosystem created or caused, depending how you treat the crisis. Is it a crisis bad thing and causing these new disruptions, or this crisis created opportunity for greater collaboration, putting the efforts together and creating what Deputy Minister kindly mentioned is a new relationship when supply is no longer energy contracts. Supply is a partnership. When the partnership includes the transportation, storage, consumption, and the planning. And again, ASEAN as a platform and the research has been highlighted, which going to follow, are well complemented to what government of Japan is putting together to enforce or inform this partnership going forward. Once again, thank you very much to the panelists. It was great and insightful. And we'll be passing the floor now to our MC.
Thank you to our panel and Rafael for an excellent discussion. Now, please take your. So we'll now proceed to the second part of the session, which focuses on transition finance. This segment offers an opportunity to introduce a vital new initiative under AZEC, the AITF Catalyst, and to discuss how we can mobilize transition finance in a practical, impactful manner. To provide an overview of transition finance under AZEC, please welcome Mr. Satoshi Shimayoshi, Program Manager at the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia area. Mr. Shimayoshi, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for introduction, Tadashi. I'm honored to present and talk about the transition finance in front of this large audience. My name is Satoshi Shimayoshi, Program Manager at Area. Over the past few years, transition finance has made a significant impact in Asia, and we have developed the foundations. Why is transition finance is not a question anymore. Given that situation, in this second half of the session, we would like to focus on the remaining question. How can we move from the concept to the implementation of transition finance? So let me start over from my brief presentation and move on to the panel. The first page, this is a summary of the recent activities of Area about the transition finance. Past 5 years, actually, we have provided a platform for financial institutions and MDBs in Asia, and almost monthly, we create a platform for discussions of transition finance. And on top of that, we have published 2 flagship papers last year. One is a joint report with ADB and METI, Area ADB main joint report titled Decarbonizing Southeast Asia's Hard to Abate and high emitting sectors. And on top of that, we also published the TLP, Technology List of Perspectives, which lists up the green technologies and transition technologies and providing the technology maturity level as well as the policy landscape, targeting the financial institutions and project owners as a reference of transition finance. Really quickly, this is a summary of the joint report of Area ADB METI, which was published last October. So the starting point of this joint report is green finance itself is not sufficient for enabling the energy transition of the region. To make the investment for the key topic on the right-hand side, transition finance is essential. That was the key message. And to make this close to the implementation, we have also provided the high-level roadmap for the key industries, including the power sectors and industry sectors such as steel, chemical, and cement. These are the foundations. By last year, we have created many foundations, policies, and outside of our activities, there are many taxonomies, roadmaps, and policy reports. So there's a foundation. Then what is missing? So the missing piece is the takeoff of individual projects. Unfortunately, in Asia, we still have a limited number of transition finance projects. So this is how we started a new initiative called AITF Catalyst, AZEC Inclusive Transition Finance Catalyst. AITF Catalyst is not the instrument for the direct funding. It's more like a problem-solving platform for the individual project. The starting point of the concept is each project should have a different challenges to be transition finance eligible project. So to make it possible, AITF Catalyst's role is to identify bottlenecks and connect necessary actors and develop support packages. And even the challenges varies from different layers, eligibility, feasibility, and bankability. In different layers, the gaps exist. So in that sense, all the project-based discussion is conducted carefully through the intensive discussion with the project owners. So tailor-made approach is the key of the AITF Catalyst. So this year, we are conducting the pilot project together with ADB and METI. And this is a list of the target of the pilot project. With a strong assumption that depending on the projects, the key challenges are very different. And that's why this year we selected six or seven pilot projects. And this is coming from the different phase of the project, different geography, and different value chains. And the project ranges from green industrial park in Indonesia, waste to energy project in Philippines here, and even to the gas to power project in Indonesia and Vietnam. Very different. The next page. So this is a summary of the challenges we identified through the pilot project. The intention here is not to talk about the individual challenges very detailed. Rather, the intention is to explain the granularity of the challenges. For instance, on the top left, under feasibility, policy and regulatory readiness, in case of the Indonesia-based green industrial park, the issue is the wheeling system of the renewable energy and certification scheme is missing. And even using the biogas, there's no certification. And even they want to provide the biogas, there's no license provided to the project owner. Like these issues are the challenges for the project owners to scale up their project and to invite the financial institutions for their transition finance. Once again, this is just an example, but I wanted you to understand how granular our approach is, and without this level of analysis, transition finance cannot move forward. So tailor-made approach is the key for the transition finance project. So this is the levers and solutions we are trying to provide. So in the previous page, we identified the issues in feasibility, eligibility, bankability, respectively. And the feasibility challenges, AITF catalyst can provide a policy dialogue, even using the AZEC platform. And if the regulatory support is needed, and we can match up with the necessary stakeholders. And if the eligibility is the issues of proceeding the project, we can support a narrative creation for transition to make alignment with existing taxonomy or roadmaps. Also, regarding the bankability, this is more practical action. We can support the project owner to match up with the MDBs and the financial institutions. For instance, for some of the pilot project this year, we have actually facilitated the conversation with MDB and project owners for the potential problem solving as well as the future handshake of the collaboration. So way forward, this is still a pilot phase. And by September this year, we are trying to translate these learnings into a playbook to make it a public asset. However, the ultimate purpose of a Catalyst is not about just creating the paper. The purpose is enabling the transition finance in the region. In that sense, we highly appreciate your support and collaboration through the nomination of the future transition finance projects or participation to the government discussion. One final page. This is just an observation. It's also connected with the part one of this session. In our observation, the role of transition finance for Asia has been radically changing past couple months. It used to be a decarbonization enabler, but now it's becoming an energy resilience anchor of the region. When transition finance started in Asia, original context was transition finance was a tool to tackle Asia's structural constraints on energy, growing energy demand, fossil fuel dependency, and diverse development stages. So original question of transition finance was, how can we achieve decarbonization? Decarbonization part was the central role of the question. However, given the recent disruptions in Hormuz and other geopolitical contexts, we observe higher emphasis put on regional resilience as policy goal. In that sense, narratives surrounding transition finance has been changing. Now the question is, how do we build regional energy resilience in a sustainable manner without carbon lock-in? So the gravity of the narrative has changed. More importantly, however, we still believe transition finance is a powerful tool. Transition finance, even for energy resilience, can be utilized for the energy transition of this region, as well as strengthening regional resilience. So last but least, earlier, hope to, together with METI and ADB, hope to collaborate for the region's transition. and regional partners we hope to continue working with ADB, METI, and other regional partners, and to make the transition finance as a implementable and tangible changes to the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shimayoshi, for the comprehensive overview. We'll now begin our second panel discussion of the afternoon. We'll hand back the floor to Mr. Shimayoshi, who will also serve as a moderator for this segment to introduce the panelists and guide the discussion. We would now like to request the panelists to take their seats on stage.
Welcome again. Thank you so much. I'm gonna keep standing in front of you and be the moderator of the second half of the session. So in this panel session, mini panel, we want to talk about So in the presentation, we have observed that Catalyst is trying to create a tangible impact with individual cases. And for this panel, we are inviting the various stakeholders like MDB and private bank and project owners as well. And we want to hear the honest and candid opinion from the panelists. So before jumping on to my first question, let me ask our distinguished panelists to introduce yourself real quick with your organization, as well as your organization's recent activities about the transition finance. So let me start over from the Unjo from the BDO Unibank.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to discuss about the transition finance. Yeah. So let me explain very briefly about the BDO. BDO is the largest commercial bank in the Philippines. So BDO Sustainable Finance has started since 2010. And then we as of now, we financed the total amounting is 1.2 trillion pesos, which is around 20 billion US dollar in sustainable project, which includes 71 utility scale renewable energy project in various technology. So one of our notable renewable energy financing is the world largest integrated 3.5 gigawatt and Mtera solar project together with 4.5 gigawatt BESS facility. And the BDO, we have the sustainable finance framework with the 27 eligible categories. So under this framework, we issued a 5 sustainability bond, which also amounting 337 billion peso, which is more than 6.4 billion US dollar. On top of our first green bond in the Philippines and then first blue bond in the Philippines as well. And then BDO Unibank is also founding member of the Asian Transition Finance Study Group, whose core participants are premier banks with operation in Asia. So ATF study group was set up in recognition of the important role that transition finance plays in helping Asian economies address the challenges as they move toward net zero emission. So since 2021, BDO and leading Asian banks continuously collaborates with the financial institutions, regulators, and industry players to further strengthen the region's collective progress to advance climate transition. So BDO support a just and orderly transition toward a more sustainable and low carbon future, which is aligned with unique context of each Asian country. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncher. So now over to Mr. Sengok.
Good afternoon. My name is Masataka Sengok. I'm a president of Tokyo Gas Philippines. First of all, I should have just provided a better picture. Everybody else has good, very good picture. Mine's really bad. Sorry about that. Tokyo Gas invest LNG receiving terminal here, and especially where we utilize a unit called FSRU, a floating FS store regasification unit, and then where just we just regasify LNG and send out natural gas to the power plant adjacent to our terminal. And also today, I'd like to just emphasize the role of natural gas in the transition period. Yes, and also just a contribution to decarbonization. Thank you. Thank you for having me this afternoon. Thank you.
Last but not least, Pradeep, please.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all of you. My name is Pradeep Tarakan. I'm Director of Energy Transition at the Asian Development Bank. So in terms of how our energy operations are organized, ADB has regional directors who sort of are responsible for the mainstream business that we have currently, which is financing transmission lines, distribution lines, large hydropower, small hydropower, solar, and so on. About 3 years ago, ADB decided to create a team called the Energy Transition Team. And our mandate is to work on sort of the new emerging areas within the energy transition space. And these are areas that our clients would like us to help them with, and which we hope will become new business lines for ADB. So think of things like critical minerals and manufacturing supply chains. That's something we focus on. As you all have heard, clean energy equipment needs materials. Materials come from minerals. So we need to be able to look at the entire value chain from mining all the way to downstream and recycling and circular economy. The second area we work on is what we call industrial and power decarbonization. This is looking at how can we make that transition from brown to green, and how to abate sectors, including emerging technologies such as green hydrogen and CCUS. The third area we work on is offshore wind development, which is something that, especially the Philippines is now beginning to look at quite seriously under the new green energy auction. And last but not least, we are also looking at how can we bring together blended finance platforms, climate finance, and new transition finance approaches to be able to make that transition from brown to green. And that's an area where we collaborate very closely with IREA and METI under the AZEC partnership. Thanks.
Thank you for the comprehensive explanation, Pradeep. So from here, let me open up from a very difficult, but very important discussion. So my first question is about the programmatic transition in Asia. So as we have observed in the part 1, energy resilience is getting more important issue in Asia. Of course, the decarbonization is the starting point. It's still very important. So my question to maybe BDO Unibank Unjur is, how should we approach a programmatic transition finance in Asia that advances both economic growth, energy resilience, and decarbonization altogether?
Yes, this is based on our current practice, actually. So we approach the energy transition financing very pragmatically and also holistically. So we believe that energy transition is about whole ecosystems transformation. So our coverage is not only RE, the renewable energy investment, also BESS facility, and then also national grid expansion, and the modernization, and then transmission line, and then all this energy infrastructure, as well as also try to reduce the coal exposure. So we committed not to finance new coal capacity since 2019 as part of effort for the transition finance. And then also to our coal asset owner to support our client, our asset owner, to redirect their investment to renewable energy investment. And then also BDO, the support all the LNG investment as a transitional fuel, and then support also LNG infrastructure, such as LNG terminal, regasification facilities, gas-fired power plant, which actually enable the Philippines provide the base load and mid-merit power generation. So this approach, why? Because modernization of grid and then expansion of grid, which is very important, because without this, we cannot finance a scaled project. We have experience in certain province. They have a very good solar potential project, but around that area doesn't have the grid which it can observe. So we cannot actually provide any financing because it cannot be bankable because of the around environment, not only renewable energy project. Renewable energy project itself, power generation is very profitable, but surround environment is not enough. And then also with the stronger efficient transmission lines of station, also the power cannot deliver reliably to the last destination. And poor grid brings the congestion and curtailment, which actually reduce the profit directly, revenue. So it's, at the end, it cannot be bankable. So energy